Good morning. Good morning. I just wanted to come on with this short story. Breaking news about Kim Jong. Kim Jong, he is North Korea's brutal dictatorship. He's a dictator over there, and he's very controlling. So he doesn't want anyone to say anything against him. He doesn't want anyone to speak, to talk back to him. He doesn't want anyone to say anything to correct him. And so he fired a missile at the plane that our VP Kamala Harris was traveling on. Now I know a lot of people may not like her, may not care for her, and people have spoke out negatively about her. And pretty much I've seen both races. I'm not going to say all races, but I've seen both races speak very negative about Kamala Harris. However, though, that's unsatisfactory for this man, this dictator, to fire a missile, towards the plane that she's traveling on. She has a First Amendment right to speak what she says. And actually, she told the truth about this man. She told the actual truth, and he didn't want to hear the truth. And that's just like, remember when I was talking about the control trap, and we were covering, the control trap, and how, excuse me, controllers want to control you. And as soon as you speak up and stand up to a controller, they have a problem with it. They don't take too kindly to it. They retaliate. And in this case, he retaliated against her. And this is what the article is saying. It says, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris on her visit to Seoul, she went to South Korea, and she slammed the North Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un's brutal dictatorship, leading to the country firing more ballistic missiles. What happened? Harris called out Pyongyang for its illegal arms program and rampant human rights violation during her visit to the inter-Korean border on Thursday, because he does violate the human rights of those people over there. They are in a dictatorship. And it was interesting because the article, people wanting to talk about her and put her down and say that's what she gets. So I said, well, why don't you move over there and live under this man's dictatorship? And will that be what you get? Because you will not have the freedom of speech that you have over there that you will have over here. And your freedom of speech that you're speaking here will not be able to be said over there. So while you're downing this woman and saying this is what she get, I bet you can't go over there and say the same thing that you're saying over here. Now, soon after the vice president departed from Seoul late Thursday, Kim's isolated nation fired 2 ballistic missiles from north of its capital in the direction of her flight, according to Reuters. This came as the third such launch in 5 days. Okay, so in the north, we see a brutal dictatorship, rampant human rights violation, and an unlawful weapons program that threatens peace and stability, Harris said. Meanwhile, the White House said that Harris and South Korea President Yoon Suk Yeol reaffirmed the goal of completely denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. The United States and the world seek a stable and peaceful Korean peninsula where the DPRK is no longer a threat, Harris added. Now, the U.S. vice president was in the demilitarized zone, separating the two Koreas after arriving in Seoul early on Thursday. Her trip to Korean DMZ was to show solidarity with Seoul after North Korea's recent ballistic missile test. Now, this man is he's a controller. He's a dictator, and he controls the people over there. They do not have freedom of speech. They do not have free will. And so whether you like Kamala Harris or not, the vice president, this is unsatisfactory that this man did this. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with him doing that. I don't know if there's going to be more sanctions put on this, on this dictatorship of his behavior, because that is unsatisfactory. And so this is what I talk about, whether we like people or not. I saw these comments, and they were like, I said, really? Here we go again. You don't like someone. And then we've seen how they treated her, because people have talked about her race as well. And, I'm not going to get into that back and forth, but I'm just saying that we've seen that. So it's this controlling dictatorship But then you have people over here thinking that that's okay. When I was reading this particular article, and I'll read one of the comments that this person, I don't know, he probably is, of another. But anyway, he says, well, that's what she gets for being in places she's not wanted and being hateful towards its citizens and leaders. She's lucky they missed. She wasn't being hateful towards the citizens over there. She made a statement which is not hateful. But see, when you stuck in a control trap, you are going to speak like that. And if you are a racist person, you're going to speak like that, because that's saying you have no value of this woman's life. And the fact is, you probably will say this is a Black woman, so you making statements like that. But this same comment that this person made would not be able to make that statement over in North Korea at all, because they don't have freedom of speech. They don't have the right to speak out without being punished. There will be punitive towards them. They will probably be locked up and treated inhuman, and may even be put to death over there. So this person that made this hateful comment, that she was being hateful. She was not being hateful. She spoke the truth. She told the truth about this controller. He's a dictator, and no one is never speaking up against him. And when people are spoken out, look what they've done. So she spoke out against him. She said what she said, and she's telling the truth. And the truth usually hurts when people speak out the truth towards a controller. And the fact is, she wasn't hateful towards the citizens. She said what she said. And actually, she was speaking on behalf, speaking up, letting the citizens know that this man is wrong for how he's treating them. So someone else says they may not like her, but what he did was wrong. What he did was wrong. And so people want to make ugly statements and things like that. But that's unacceptable. What this dictator did is very unacceptable. But we have some other things to cover as well. And the Los Angeles Vegas police, they did arrest the man that killed PNB, the father that was also involved, that robbed him at the Roscoe and Chicken's Waffle House. He actually was arrested in Las Vegas. Now, what's interesting is interesting in this, and I never really covered the whole story on this, but it says the Southern California authorities, they had already announced. Good morning, Miss Carolyn. How are you? Good to see you. Hope that you and your family is doing well. They did go ahead and arrest the 17-year-old boy and the stepmother in connection with the brutal killing of rapper PNB that occurred, during the Roscoe's Chicken Waffles in South Los Angeles. Now, the father, I look at this and I'm thinking, well, you went in there, you robbed this man, you had a gun, you pulled out this gun and you unalived this man. But however, you flew to Vegas, you ran off. When I say flew, I mean ran off to Vegas. Why would you need to do that if you're so big and bad? See, these people have these guns, and these guns, that's what makes them tough. That's what makes them bad with a gun. But yet still, you ran off to Vegas. And now they arrested him in Vegas. But he was so big and bad. Why didn't he just stay where he was at? Why did you have to go to Vegas? Since you killed a man, unalived a man, why did you have to go to Vegas? So I'm inclined to say that people that use guns to hurt others, they're not that big and bad without a gun. But he ran off to Vegas after he killed, unalived this rapper. He ran off to Vegas, and they actually literally called him. And this is really sad that his family was involved in it as well. And it says the Los Angeles Police Department identified Freddie Lee Trong, the boy's father, as one of the suspects. Trong was on the run. Why would he need to be on the run? When I say flew, that's what I'm saying. He was on the run, but was apprehended Thursday in Las Vegas, where he was booked on his warrant pending extradition to Los Angeles. He's 32 years of age. His wife is 32 years of age, and she was arrested, in Gardena to accessory to the murder. And Chantel Trone is the boy's stepmother. So they had this 17-year-old participating in a crime, and now he's probably going to be charged actually as an adult. This is really, sad, but they obviously did catch the father. And then let's talk about these comments that this sheriff made. There was a sheriff and out of North Carolina, and he made some derogatory comments towards Black employees. And it says a North Carolina sheriff was recorded calling Black employees by derogatory names and saying they should be fired, a television station reported. Several Black officers in leadership positions were later demoted or fired. So he demoted several Black people in leadership, employees, personnel in leaderships. He either demoted them or he terminated them. Now, Columbus County Sheriff Jody Green issued a statement arguing that the recording of the February 2019 phone call obtained by WECT-TV had been edited or altered. But he didn't deny in the statement that he was on call or that he made the statements. Those, you know what, people are constantly trying to say that now. That call, you know, because you can't alter certain things. But I doubt that. And he's trying to say that his statement was altered. The calls was edited or altered. No, it wasn't. You said what you said. You got caught because you've been getting away with it. And now you want to say that you really didn't mean it that way, or you want to try to soften the blow of what you said and you got caught doing. The recorded comments were condemned by the North Carolina NAACP, which demanded Green's resignation. Now, his language is divisive, it's nasty, and it's offensive. His words are disparaging and hurtful to people of color. And you know, we always have said that too, that there's many disparities when it comes to the Black race. And of course, there's going to be disparities as far as, you know, work-related situations. There's a lot of disparities. They think they can just make comments and it's okay to make these comments. It's not okay. People have rights even in the workplace, no matter what their color is, no matter what their race is. And he did these things, and he's trying to say that it was altered, you know, they were edited or altered what he said. Now, it goes on to say that his actions have cast a cloud of his ability to execute the office with impartiality. He's not able to be impartial when it comes to leadership in that office. The NAACP said in a statement, basically, so the local district attorney said Thursday that he asked the State Bureau of Investigation to probe allegations of obstruction of justice within the sheriff's office, but declined to elaborate because he probably is in there probably doing some more threats. He is obstructing justice because he doesn't want to get prosecuted or sanctioned or removed from his seat in that position for the things that he's been doing and the statements that he's been making. Now, the recording was given to the station by a former sheriff's captain who's now running against Green to be sheriff. And you know, that's what happens too in this political arena, is that when people know something, they'll hold on to it. And then when they want to use it against you, they'll use it against you because it's saying that the former sheriff captain is now running against him. So that's who, you know, the recording was given to him. So he wants to look good and gain the public's trust and do the right thing. So guess what? It's being exposed, right? So it says that now he's running against Green to be sheriff, located about 120 miles southeast of Raleigh. Columbus County has about 50,000 people and is approximately 63% white and 30% Black. Now, the call in 2019 to then Captain Jason Souls came shortly after Green narrowly defeated former Sheriff Lewis Hatcher, who is Black. Now, Souls was temporarily acting as sheriff at the time due to a court-mediated agreement that kept Green from assuming the duties of the office while election officials examined the contest, which was ultimately decided by fewer than 40 votes. So he won, I believe, by 37 votes, okay? So in the call, Green, who was white, said he believes someone in the sheriff's office was leaking information to Hatcher, the station reported. So he didn't want this information leaked out. And so he's angry about this. And here he goes. He says, you know, he didn't want information leaked, but he says, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of these Black, and he used an expletive. Green is recorded saying, I'm going to clean house and be done with it, and we'll start from there. Green was also recorded saying, every Black that I know, you need to fire him to start with. He's a snake. And so the North Carolina Sheriff's Association also condemned the statements and said that Green resigned from the group after being notified that it was scheduling a meeting to consider expelling him from the association. The comments made on the recording are inflammatory, racially derogatory, insulting, and offensive, the group said in a release. Now, WECT reported that 2 Black officers were on the previous sheriff's group of high-ranking officers known as command staff, but that a captain was fired and a lieutenant, excuse me, a lieutenant, was demoted after Green was sworn in. Okay, he demoted him right after he was sworn in. And then it says that another Black sergeant said he was fired shortly after Green was elected. The station reported that several Black deputies appeared to remain in the sheriff's office in positions below the level of command staff. So Green told WECT on Monday that he didn't recall making the statement. See, that's an easy way out. That's a coward. He didn't recall making the statements, but he know that he made them. But he's going to say, I don't recall doing that. That's like pleading the fifth. I don't recall. I can't remember nothing. That's almost like doing that. I can't remember anything. And so on Wednesday, he released a statement saying Souls had a political motive to release the recording and arguing it had been edited or altered. In the statement, he did not deny making the comments, though. He didn't deny it. And he's trying to use this as a political motive. No, you said what you said, brother. You said what you said, and now you are being held accountable to that. So if Souls has these alleged recordings since 2019, why would he intentionally hold the recordings? That's a good statement. That's why I was saying that sometimes people hold on to things and use it to their advantage. And the only thing Souls has on his agenda is to be sheriff at all costs necessary, the sheriff said. Now, Green said an attorney who advises the county didn't immediately respond to an email seeking further comment. Now, Souls told WECT that he had previously shared the recording with the SBI and a county commissioner. The agency told him that it couldn't investigate without a formal request from the local prosecutor. So Souls is saying he did turn over the recordings, but they didn't do anything about it. They made an excuse, it sounds like, to why they didn't do anything about it. And so District Attorney John David told the station that he was informed of the recording Monday. In an email Thursday, David said he asked the SBI on Thursday to investigate Sheriff Jody Green and deputies under his command for obstruction of justice, but declined to elaborate. The SBI issued a statement confirming the request and declined further comment on what it called an ongoing investigation. Okay, so this man is out of control. He said the thing he said, what he said, and now he has to be held accountable for the things that he said. And we have got to stop voting people in office that are not for the good of people and humanity. And so here we are with the Arkansas senator suspended over filing frivolous complaints. And it is time that our government gets back in line with the standards that they're supposed to be following. And so we have a lot of senators, like I said, they're going back and forth in our government, and this is not the government that God expects the government to run, and is not how we should expect our government to run. With all this foolishness going on in the government and people doing what they want, and when they get angry, they tend to lash out, file frivolous lawsuits, start playing the victim. And and this is what this grown man did. He's an Arkansas senator. He's suspended over filing frivolous complaints. He filed a frivolous complaint, and now he is being suspended. And this is Little Rock, Arkansas. An Arkansas state senator won't have access to Senate offices and can't participate in legislative meetings after the Senate on Tuesday ruled he made a frivolous ethics complaint against a fellow lawmaker in retaliation for sanctions he received earlier this year. Now, they voted 26-4. The majority Republican Senate approved its ethics committee's recommendation to suspend GOP Senator Alan Clark for the rest of the 93rd General Assembly, which ends on January 8th. The Senate earlier this month rejected a complaint Clark had filed against Democratic Senator Stephanie Flowers, accusing her of improperly receiving per diem payments for legislative meetings she attended via Zoom. Now, the ethics panel ruled that Clark had filed the complaint as retaliation after the Senate stripped him and another lawmaker of their leadership post after Clark sought reimbursement for a meeting he didn't attend. See, he sought reimbursement. He put in a request to get reimbursement for a meeting he didn't attend. But Flowers, and we're going to get down to that, she got the money. She didn't even know she received it. But when she did receive it, according to the complaint, according to the ethics committee, she received the money. She didn't know she received it, but she gave it back. She returned the money, which is the rightful thing to do. Rightfully, righteously, that is the rightful thing to do. But he requested money that he did not attend a meeting, and it was and he wanted money for it. See, those are crooks, and we have to start voting out crooks. And although I don't live in the state of Arkansas, I don't live there, but these are crooks that do things in politics, and they've been getting away with it. And we have to start holding people accountable, praying more, getting out there and voting. And when things come up, we need to hold these politicians accountable, because this politician should have never been requesting money for a meeting he never attended. But see, that's how they've been getting away with things. And so here we are as the citizens. The people will vote people in, even though they're doing wrong. And we shouldn't do that. We should vet the people before we vote. It should take a month or two for you to sit down and read about every candidate, study them. And if you have to find out what their background is by going to Wikipedia, asking questions around people that been in politics, that are ethical people. You have to vet these people. You can't just go to the polls the morning of the election and start trying to vote for someone when you haven't did your homework or your research on these candidates, on these politicians. And God calls us to pray. Pray for the ones that are in office, pray for the ones that's going to be voted in, and pray for the past ones, because they still have influence on people that, influence on people, the ones that were in past office that don't get in office again. Look at what happened on January 6th, the Capitol. Look what happened. There were people that were angry because Trump was given a 4-year term, right? And he didn't get voted in again. And the people were still angry. They were fuming. And that's why I'm saying they still in their feelings over a candidate that didn't get back in. And look what they did. They assaulted the Capitol. So that's why you have to pray for former leaders, because they're still an influence. And you don't know who's still communicating with these former leaders and directing stuff indirectly. I'm telling you, and they raided Trump's, Mar-a-Lago, home or whatever, compound or mansion or whatever, because he had stuff he more than likely should not have had. Information that he shouldn't have carried home with him. When in management, I always was trained. When I first got in management at my employer, you don't take no work home with you. You keep it there. You do your work at work, and you leave it locked up where it belongs. You don't take nothing home for people to be bringing charges against you or suspicious or something and wanting to bring. You just don't do that. But there are people that feel like they're beyond reproach. They feel, beyond approach. I'm sorry. And they feel like that they can do whatever they want because somebody or someone gave them the power to do it. And when you get batteries put in your back, we see it on YouTube, people getting batteries put in their back, and they feel they got all the power. And then when they get involved with the FBI and say that they are an informant, they feel like they're untouchable. And I think about even a lot of these people in this R. Kelly case, they feel untouchable too. They are putting their trust in man instead of in God. They have become self-centered instead of God-centered. And they feel because the Me Too movement and these liberal feminine groups out here and the Me Too movement judge and the Me Too movement prosecute, they all feel because they have sided with their fake allegations that they're untouchable. And you know what? All of that is going to come to a head. So that's why keep your head up with the R. Kelly thing. You are not defeated. No one is defeated, honey. God is still on the throne, honey, and God can throw a more powerful punch than anybody down here. Believe me, and when God puts his divine hand up on some folks, they are going to feel the wrath of God's anger up on them. So don't feel defeated. I know a lot of people did. Don't feel defeated, because I felt, a certain kind of way, but I know that I'm not defeated. We got to rise up above, the defeat, rise up above that mentality and keep on fighting. We got to take, that's why I said we have to sit back, we have to reflect, we got to pray, ask God to clear our hearts and mind and get back in the fight. Don't give up your spot in the race. Get back in the fight and continue the fight, because once you get back in the fight and you clear your head, your mind, guess what? In your heart, clear, all minds and hearts are clear. You've heard that when you go to church, all minds and hearts are clear. Let me tell you something. God will give you a new revelation. God will give you some new information to come back and fight harder, because that's what God does. And so once your mind and heart is clear, he can tell you what to do, and you can use that through the Holy Spirit to get back, to come out fighting stronger. And you don't have to do it illegally. You don't have to do, because two wrongs don't make a right. All you got to do is do it legally, and do it the right way that God has given it to you to do. And that's why it's important that we vet these people before we put them in office. And so the committee felt that the comments and actions of Senator Clark, including bringing these ethic petitions for the purpose of retaliation, were bringing dishonor and disruption to the institution of the Senate. Republican Senator Kim Hammer, who chairs the Ethics Committee, told senators before the vote. That is true. He retaliated. And this is a frivolous complaint. It's frivolous that he brought this complaint. It was frivolous, and they saw through it. And see, if we had had an ethical judge, they would have sought through these frivolous allegations in this case that we've been following for the last few years, but we didn't have that type of judge. But preferably the Supreme Court will be that type of judge. Preferably the appellate court, whoever it is, however this go, will be that type of judge to do the right thing, because that's why we have an ethics committee, for people to act ethical. But we see that people are not acting ethical. We see that people took an oath, but they are not acting ethical, and they're not following the oath that they have taken for their own personal agenda, or their own personal views, or their own personal trauma that they suffered by someone else, when we see that a lot of the relationships involved in that was consensual. So this man, he filed a frivolous complaint, and they are holding him accountable to it. So Clark didn't attend Tuesday proceedings, citing a long-planned trip with his family, and said his attorneys would not have been able to attend. The lawmaker accused the Senate of punishing a whistleblower with this vote. Oh, please, you're not no whistleblower. Stop it. Stop with the nonsense. You need to accept your punishment and be a man. You have a family, and you took on a family. You got married. You got a family. So be the leader of your household and show leadership. Show that character that you're supposed to show in your home and outside of your home. So he's going on saying, well, how can we be expected to fight corruption and wrongdoing in government if we can't reveal and stand against our own questionable behavior? Clark said in a statement via text message. I am saddened for this body that I love more than anything else. My thing is, stop trying to, get people to empathize or sympathize with you by saying that, when you were the one trying to get money for a meeting that you did not attend. Let's just call it what it is. He should accept his punishment, say, I'm sorry, and accept the punishment and move on. We just had a coach that has to accept his punishment. He's a black man, and he has to accept his punishment, right? But they refuse to show the woman, that the adulteress, the unknown adulteress, right? And so no one, they're not talking about that. But you know what I was saying yesterday, if you saw my video. So no, you're a white man, accept your punishment, just like this black coach, the head coach, has to accept his punishment and apologize. And he's not trying to apologize. He's still trying to make excuses for his behavior. So it says, rules the Senate adopted during the coronavirus pandemic allow members to participate remotely, but not receive per diem funds. They shouldn't receive per diem funds, because therefore they did not travel anywhere. Flowers had not requested the payments and repaid the money in August after she realized she had received them because of a clerical error the ethics committee found. So they did their investigation. They did their research. And so she repaid the money. She did not know that the clerical staff had made an error. And that happens sometimes. Even at work, you might get extra something in your paycheck that you should not have received. Or you might be going on disability and you take money you shouldn't receive. Or you get money after you've returned to work, unemployment or disability payments. You have to return that money. That is being ethical, acting right and doing the right thing. And she did. And so when they did the investigation, it came back that she had did the right thing and she really did not know. But he was angry and he thought but he tried to get money knowing that he shouldn't have. And so he's angry that they, are holding him accountable. The ethics committee. That's what the ethics committee is to hold people accountable when they act unethical and they violate the ethics. So guess what? You have to take your punishment, Clark, and take it and move on. But it says the ethics committee cited comments Clark made before filing the complaint on social media and a picture that circulated of him wearing a scarlet E, similar to the scarlet A worn as punishment for adultery in Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Ladder at a Republican Party event after he was sanctioned by the Senate. So he was acting like a child, a very immature child. Some children act better than adults, right? Sometimes your children can teach you how to behave. And he was acting like a child. So the vote came after nearly 3 hours of contentious debate, with defenders of Clark criticizing the Senate for taking up the ethics charges without him present. Legislative leaders noted that other lawmakers had made time for the Senate's proceedings despite work and other obligations. So he was angry, he was mad, he was a crybaby, and so he did not attend, which he should have attended. And so Republican Senator David Wallace, who voted to suspend Clark, at one point complained about the drawn-out debate of the Senate's ethics procedures. We're tripping over mouse turds right now, Wallace said. The suspension means Clark loses access to Senate offices and resources, including his email account, and won't be able to participate in the legislative meetings except for organizational meetings for the next General Assembly. The Senate also voted to recommend to the next General Assembly that Clark lose his seniority. Now, the vote marks the first time a senator has been suspended under a 2018 overhaul of the Senate's ethics rules that were enacted after several lawmakers were implicated in a federal corruption probe. Now, after suspending Clark, the Senate also voted to change its rules to require that an ethics complaint be filed by at least 3 senators rather than just 1. So he is getting what he gets, and he deserves to be held accountable for the bad behavior, bad acting. And I wanted to share with you something else, because this also remember the lady that was in California that was pregnant, and she was being the officer stopped. I told that story already on another video, that they stopped to get Starbucks coffee and she had a miscarriage, and they settled for $480,000. Now, these officers that are bad actors, that are being bad employees, and they're doing things unethical and not right, but we are the ones as taxpayers that are having to pay for these lawsuits because we have officers in position that are not doing their job, police officers, and they're not making the right decisions, and it's costing our taxpayers, like you and me, money to pay for these lawsuits. It's not coming out of the police officer's pocket. It's not coming out of their pension. It's not coming out of any salaries or the union fund or pension fund. Guess where it's coming from? It's coming from taxpayers' money, and we are stuck holding the bill when people are victimized in the judicial system or in the custody of police care. Okay, in the custody of police care. And so there's another article that came out about a woman that was left to give birth alone in a Maryland jail cell floor and ignored for 6 hours by nurses. And these are nurses that took an oath. And I know there's a lot of nurses out here. I have 6 of them in my family, and maybe 7 or 8 now. But the nurses took an oath to protect, to do no harm. And so you cannot have a biased attitude being a nurse. If you have a biased attitude being a nurse, then you need to find a different profession. And I believe these nurses in this case need to be their license need to be suspended or pulled. They need to be disbarred and they need to be terminated in this case. I don't care what an inmate has done. If you are in the custody of the Department of Corrections or detention or whatever, you are in custody, they have an obligation and a duty to do the right thing by the inmate. This lady was in custody. She was 8 months pregnant. Now, whatever she did to get there is not my business. And if she hasn't faced a judge, then we should not be up here saying, well, they shouldn't have did this and that, and they wouldn't be in custody. A lot of people are in custody and they are truly innocent of the charges or crimes that they say they committed. We see it all the time. So how can we be so biased? And I'm not saying you all, but in this story, I saw some comments that people, even women, were so biased towards this woman, saying that she shouldn't have did what she did, but they lack knowledge and they lack awareness because she hadn't even faced the judge. And a lot of times they will let you out on your own recognizance. And if they don't let you out, they feel it's a serious thing, you have to wait to go before a judge. And if they keep you in there because they feel you did something very grievous, like unaliving or deleting someone, they might keep you in there. You can't, and some of it you can make bail, some you can't. They won't give you bail depending on the crime that they say you are suspected of committing. They won't let you out, and you have to go face a judge. And then the judge looks at all of the stuff, especially if you're been indicted and the prosecution, presents this case. But however, when you are in the Department of Corrections or custody, I've never been in custody, but I'm saying these people are still human. Why dehumanize a human being that God created? He created all of us. So whether you think they're your enemy, you don't like them, you're mad at them, you're accusing them of something, it doesn't matter. We have got to do the right thing. And we have seen, even in this high-profile case, how nothing was pretty much done correctly. And it's still going on. It's still going on. The screwdriver is still being placed. You see what I'm saying? And so I was appalled at the comments, just like I was with all that case, but appalled at the comments of how people, and I don't know what race some of these people are, and some of it you can tell by their comments, but it was women also talking some foolish stuff about this woman. The baby is innocent. The baby deserves the right to life. If a woman is carrying a baby, they deserve the right to life. 8 months, she hadn't even made her 9th month, pregnancy. And so anyway, they ignored her for 6 hours. She was 8 months pregnant. And they said a woman who says she was left to give birth to her baby alone on the dirty concrete floor of her jail cell in Maryland filed a federal lawsuit Tuesday alleging that jail nurses ignored her screams and pleas for help for 6 hours. Jasmine Valentine alleges some nurses working for the jail's contracted medical provider, Pennsylvania-based Prime Care Medical Incorporated, says she was withdrawing from drugs, not in labor. And some jail staffers and medical staff laughed at her, saying she was just trying to get out of her cell late at night in July 2021 at the Washington County Jail in Hagerstown. Now, Valentine claims she punched the walls of her solitary confinement cell, which did not have blankets or sheets, during her most painful contractions and removed what she believed was her baby's amniotic sac and slid it under her cell door to prove she was about to have a baby. This is what they did. They never came to check on her. And even if she was withdrawing, they should come and check, because they don't know what could happen when someone is withdrawing from drugs in their system. Because I believe that the alleged charge is that she violated her probation because she shouldn't have been doing drugs, allegedly. And so a fellow inmate, hearing Valentine pleas, called Valentine's boyfriend, who called the jail pleading with staffers to help her, the lawsuit said. The nurses also ignored a concern raised by a jail deputy about Valentine's Valentine, but he did not contact any superiors. The lawsuit said he discovered Valentine holding the baby girl in her cell about 15 minutes after she was born, just after midnight on July 4th, 2021, and an ambulance was called to take them to the hospital, according to the lawsuit. So this lady, this inmate, female inmate, she delivered a baby while in custody, and they never came to check on her, except for when she put the amniotic sac under the cell door out where they could see it. And the deputy, he came to check on her. He even told the nurses, and they didn't do anything. And that's where he saw her holding her baby. And that's when an ambulance was called. So these nurses were getting paid to sit around and laugh and mock and talk about inmates as if they're inhuman. They're still human beings. They're human. And they should never be treated inhuman, regardless of what they've done. You cannot violate people's rights. Two wrongs don't make a right. And we see that happen. Someone breaks the law, and then they violate their rights. But it's not your place to violate their rights. Your place is to do your job in an ethical manner with humanity and get them where they need to be taken into custody. And then that's why we have a judge. That's why we have a jury that gets selected. That's why we have the prosecutors, so that they can decide, well, is this worth pursuing, or and they have parole officers they can reach out to see, does this warrant, additional charges, or see it put back in custody, or, man, I mean, so because of the unsanitary conditions in the cell, the baby developed a staph infection. A staph bacteria, not just infection, but bacteria infection, which is, a bacteria infection is worse. And it had resistance to the antibiotics. So the baby was having a hard time with the antibiotics that was given, because it wasn't obviously clearing up the bacteria and staph infection, or the staph bacteria infection. So Valentine, who had never given birth before, so if you've never given birth and you having your first baby, you're going to be afraid. And then you're there by yourself, and no one's there to help you or to coach you through it, or to hold your hand and guide you and get you through it, and let you know that regardless of the fear, you got to do it because the baby's coming. Nobody was there to do that. So she feared that her baby would die. That's a hard one. And she might bleed out while delivering her, but realizing that no one was going to help. So right away, survival mode kicked in. She was determined to try to deliver the baby on her own. And in her brain, she's thinking anything could happen. She said of her fears, I felt like I was in the hands of the devil, honestly. She felt like she was in the devil's hands. So the lawsuit alleged that Washington County, Maryland, its sheriff department and sheriff, as well as nurses and deputies at the jail, violated Valentine's rights under state law and the Constitution. And they did. They violated her rights under state law and the Constitution, because you have a right to receive medical care. That's why when people leave an accident, hit and run, and they don't, provide medical care, or at least call for a 911, an ambulance, to come and help the victim, the injured victim, it is your constitutional rights to receive medical care or treatment. And they failed this baby, and they failed the mother, and most of all failed this baby. But they failed both of them. The mother could have died giving birth. The baby something could have happened to the baby. The cord could have been wrapped around the baby's neck. Anything could have happened in this situation. They violated this woman's rights, just like we've seen them violate so many men's rights, especially Black men, while they're in custody. Because there's a big lawsuit with this other $1 million, what is it, 100 million? It's some lawsuit with them because the man head hit the hit something, a dashboard, and while he was being transported in a van unrestrained. And then the way they did him when they got him out of the van, it's so much going on that they treat these people inhuman, even though they're suspected allegedly of committing a crime, and they're treated inhuman. And people have lost, I'll say this, we have lost a lot of Black men in society, but families have lost so many Black men to police brutality and being treated inhuman. And even in the court system, Riverside County, the sheriff is under scrutiny. He's under fire now because of all the deaths that's been happening in the Riverside County Sheriff Department in detention. And people have been protesting. People have been protesting because they want answers about all these deaths and whether they're in custody for something they did or not. Who are we to say, well, that's what they get? No, that's not what they get. That's inhumane. That's not what they get. Who are we? We're not the judge or jury. We're not God. And until people face their charges, what if they're innocent? What if they have the wrong person in custody? What if they made a mistake on identifying who it is? What if the person would just happen to be standing around watching a crime and just looking or recording it, and they go, well, you had something to do with it? We see that a lot, and we see a lot of men are incarcerated that are being exonerated because they were put in detention falsely, and evidence was covered up. So I am not going to say that's what they get, because it could, I mean, am I getting what I deserve when I do things that I know I shouldn't do? I mean, we're not perfect, and people want to put a level on sin. How can you put a level on sin? There's no level to sin. Sin is still sin. And am I capping for people that do wrong? Absolutely not. But if they're in custody, temporary custody or custody, that doesn't mean that they should be treated inhumane. That doesn't mean they shouldn't get medical care. And they should be checked on. And those nurses had an obligation. They took an oath to do no harm. They took an oath to treat the person and not be biased. Because a lot of times people are biased in whatever profession. Just like if you're a therapist and you promise to do no harm, and if you're a therapist and we have a rapist or some that gets out of jail and they have to go to counseling. Okay, they're mandated to counseling, and you're the therapist. If you are biased and you feel you cannot counsel that client because of the crime they committed and was convicted of and charged with and convicted, charged and convicted with, you have to request, you have to recuse yourself, excuse yourself from that client, refer it to another effective therapist if you can't do it because of your beliefs or your biases. You can't. In counseling, you can't do that. You can't keep if you can't treat that person, the best thing that you do is get a colleague that's effective and say, look, I can't. This person was accused of this. They were charged and convicted, and I feel a certain kind of way about that, or I was, raped before. I can't counsel that person. I wouldn't be able to be unbiased. I wouldn't be able to help them in the best way because I wouldn't be able to get past what they did. And you refer them. You make that referral immediately. And so these nurses didn't do their job. They didn't do their job, period. Under state law, the Constitution, and even their oath. That's why they need to have their license pulled, suspended, or they are barred from nursing. You need a different profession. That baby was innocent. And because you use your personal beliefs and biased attitude and hateful wickedness, something could have seriously happened to the mother and the baby. No one wants to deliver a baby on a dirty jail floor. She had no sheets, no blanket, no anything. And I understand why there would not be sheets and blankets if she was in a drug with, withdrawal state. I understand that. Because when they put you in solitary confinement, they don't want you to hurt yourself. I understand that. But they knew she was pregnant when she went in. I'm sure she was showing. And aren't they supposed to ask you if you get in custody, or do they ask you if you're pregnant as a female? So they would have known by her records. Even if she was getting put in that patrol car, she probably told them, I'm pregnant. While they was taking her into custody, before they put the cuffs on her, I'm pregnant. So anyway, the county spokesperson, Danielle Weaver, said the county had no comment. Of course they don't have a comment. Of course they don't have a comment. They should remain silent, because anything they say extra or in addition to this can be used against them. Excuse me for a second. Thank you. Getting warm. Getting warm. So, right there. That feels good. Getting warm. So, here we go. Okay. So anyway, so Valentine was more than 8 months pregnant. Let me turn this over here, you all. My microphone. So she was actually more than 8 months pregnant when she was arrested for an alleged probation violation and taken to the jail the day before she went into labor, the lawsuit said. Valentine was released several days later and her baby is doing well, she said Tuesday. So she was no longer in custody. They probably left her alone, dropped the charges. Who knows? So this is the one so this is another one right here. The lawsuit is similar to the one filed in 2019 by a woman who gave birth alone in Denver's jail the year before, claiming that nurses and deputies ignored her pleas for help for 5 hours. Surveillance video, also a video released then by the law firm representing Diana Sanchez, which is also representing Valentine, showed her lying down on a narrow bed, crying out in pain and delivering a baby boy. The city eventually settled the lawsuit. Now, this is sad, where women cannot get birthing assistance. They are being stuck in jail cells, delivering babies by themselves. Now, this lady she was on an actual bed. She was actually on a bed, but the other lady, Valentine, was in a solitary confinement, no bed on a jail floor. Now, this lady here was on a bed, but she even 5 hours, crying out in pain and delivering a baby boy by herself. No help, while the nurses, the jail nurses and deputies ignored her pleas for help for 5 hours. They settled that suit, but guess who's going to pay? The taxpayers. That money comes out of taxpayers' money. Every suit that is filed against policemen and the jails and the prisons for things like this, where they fail to do their job, fail to act in an ethical manner and a humane manner towards inmates, is costing taxpayers money, no matter what city you live in. the taxpayer is going to pay for these lawsuits where people were harmed, where rights were violated, civil rights, constitutional rights, for the decisions or lack of ethical decisions that these officers and jail employees and nurses are acting. Sad. So following Sanchez's delivery, the Denver County Sheriff's Department, which runs the jail, said it changed its policy to ensure that pregnant inmates who are in any stage of labor are immediately taken to the hospital. That's how it should be. If the nurses are not going to check on these inmates, if they say I'm in labor because they know they're pregnant, when they're before they even put you in handcuffs on, you as a woman probably say, you know what, I'm pregnant. Somewhere they learned that the female inmate, if she's pregnant, before she gets there, is pregnant. And they have got to start doing what's right by these pregnant inmates when they put them in custody, because it's inhumane. And so they changed their policy, and they should have changed their policy. So previously, decisions about whether to move a pregnant inmate were left to jail nurses, but deputies were authorized to call for an ambulance for someone in labor. Well, obviously, these nurses are not doing their job, so they shouldn't leave it up to them anymore. So David Lane, whose law firm is involved in both cases, said he believes they highlight problems, both the privatizing healthcare behind bars and the attitudes of correctional administrators. As long as jail and prison administrators view inmates as animals, because that's what they're doing, these kinds of things will continue to happen, he said. And this is the one I was telling you about the lady that was in California, out in Orange County, up in California. They agreed to a $480,000 settlement because she was an inmate, she was pregnant, and she suffered a miscarriage after sheriff deputies stopped at a Starbucks while driving her to a hospital. Again, pretty much everybody's state is affected. If you are living in a state and they're acting like this and doing this type of stuff unethical and treating the inmate inhumane, it's going to be a lawsuit eventually. And taxpayers are going to pay for this lawsuit. And I was reading, like I told you earlier, shared with you the comments, and they were up here. Some of these women were up here, saying, well, she shouldn't have been in there. What did she do that for? She knew she was pregnant. She gets what she gets. All types of stuff that people were saying about this lady and these women, according to this article. And someone said they did it to a woman in Fort Myers, Florida jail, and the baby died. And the baby died. And see, here go this one lady. Maybe she should not have been in jail because she should have been doing good things than bad things since she was knocked up. I have no sympathy for criminals. This is what this lady said. But I told her this is a horrible thing to say when the baby was innocent. The baby was put in danger because of the staff's ignorance and lack of mercy. And the mother was put in danger as well. But there was a nurse that was in these comments, and she stated that they took an oath. She said, I'm a nurse, and we take an oath, and they need to be terminated. That's what she said, and unlicensed. She was a nurse. She said, that's awful. She said, regardless of what their status is, what they're being charged with, she should have received help. All of these women should have received help. And they should have never stopped at a Starbucks while this lady was in labor. They need to be fired. That just goes to show you how much, when we talk about these people and their level of awareness, and Just ridiculous stuff, crazy stuff. And then, you know, it's just crazy. But I'm going to I've been on long enough, and I'm going to I think I'll do one more I'll talk about this, and then I'm going to get off because I've been on. I got two more articles that are quick because most people know about them. So I'm going to talk about them, and then I am going to get off. You know, Michael Avenatti was ordered to pay $148,000, $740 in restitution to Stormy Daniels. He is having to pay this restitution, and hopefully he will not get away with it. He will have to pay it, okay? Because all of his nonsense and the things he did to Mr. Kelly, you know, people have to be careful about what they participate in and what they do, because karma comes back on you. Okay, so I'm not going to get all up in that. We know about that. And then DeSantis appointee resigns after alleged KKK photo surfaces. So he was appointing someone, and he was in a KKK costume, and so he's resigned because of that. See, we have to be careful about these close ties that these politicians have with other people and placing them in positions, like even in the Mississippi scandal of the Department of Human Services. That former governor, he was close ties with that director. He was close ties with the auditor. He was close ties with a lot of them that he appointed and placed in position, and then tried to act like the whistleblower because Shad, the auditor, said he was a whistleblower, the former governor, with this Brett Favre stuff, and he actually was not a whistleblower. See, we have to do peep game on this. He was trying to say that to protect him because he had close ties with the former governor. But no, he wasn't a whistleblower. He was participating, and he was able to use the two nonprofits to filter that money through to get it to Brett Favre, and they need to be charged, like I said, and Brett needs to be removed from the Hall of Fame. But anyway, this is a couple, not a couple, I'm sorry. And then you have Kim Porter's alleged niece. Now, she's suing P. Diddy, saying that she was terminated for being pregnant and needed to take a 2-month or leave of absence. But in the article, it's also saying that they cannot confirm that she's really the niece of Kim Porter in any relation to the twins of Kim Porter's daughters. And so she's, he used her babysitting services, were always intended to be temporary since the girls were getting older and spending most of the day at school. In fact, Raven's transition out of her role was planned and agreed to by her long before she ever mentioned that she was pregnant. Mr. Combs would take swift and immediate action to protect his family against these false claims. Because, see, they're saying that the lawsuit is meritless, and it's a meritless shakedown to extort money from Mr. Combs. Raven is not the niece of Kim Porter, as she falsely alleges, nor is there any legal basis for this case to be filed under the anonymity as a Jane Doe. So she wants to be a Jane Doe. She's filed a case under being a Jane Doe, and she's trying to sue suing P. Diddy, because P. Diddy fired her, and she terminated her, ended her babysitting services, and she's saying that it's all because she was pregnant and needed to take a leave of absence. See, Raven was a part-time babysitter to the twins who Mr. Combs kept on the job back in 2018 to provide continuity for the twins following the untimely death of their mother. Mr. Combs graciously permitted Raven to live in his home with her son and treated them like family. So she was treated like family, according to this. Now, we know that he could be a shrewd businessman, but we don't know what the situation was with his daughters. We don't know, what it was, what the situation was, when it came down to babysitting, because he loves his daughters. He admires those daughters. And so he wanted to have someone there to help take care of them at that time. And he was grieving. And he said, and when he spoke out, he was having a hard time dealing with that. And so a source close to Diddy tells us the woman was not terminated because she was pregnant, that she was terminated for cause. Now, what's more, the source claims the woman is not related to Diddy or Kim. And you know, that can be easily proven. You know, that's why there's DNA testing, but that can be easily proven that she is no relation to P. Diddy, you know, or Kim. That can be proven. So that has to be, you know, obviously proven. It can be proven before if it goes to trial, you know, or, you know, but it can be proven. So Sean Diddy Combs is being sued by Kim's Porter allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly niece, who claims she was wrongly terminated after she told him she got pregnant and needed to take maternity leave. Now, in legal docs, okay, obtained by TMZ, you know, TMZ is going to always be involved in something, right? A woman referred to as Jane Roe. Jane Roe. She's not going by Jane Doe, I guess. It's Jane Roe. Now, they said it was Jane Doe, but now TMZ is saying it's Jane Roe. So I don't know if that's a typo or not, who identifies herself as Kim's niece, is suing Diddy, TriStar Sports, and others, claiming she became a full-time nanny to Diddy's twins after Kim passed away in November 2018. Jane says she was then fired 2 years later when she requested maternity leave. Now, she claims the day after Kim passed away, Diddy asked her to live at his estate and become a full-time nanny to his twins, Jesse, James, and Delilah, adding she was responsible for the twins' 24/7 care. Now, she says she got pregnant in 2020 and told Diddy she needs to take maternity leave, but Diddy, she says he became infuriated and terminated her employment around the time she was set to begin her time off. That has to be proven in a court of law, you all. You know, people can say a lot of stuff and people can interpret whatever they feel is the reason. And sometimes people, when they believe they're right, a lot of times people believe they're right when they're actually wrong. So I'm not saying she's right or wrong. I'm just saying sometimes even with us, when we believe we right and we turn out to be wrong, but we're not willing to accept when we are not right. And so I don't know. I'm just, you know, throwing that out there. That is that really the case? Well, I guess we'll have to follow this and we'll have to see, right? So Roe claims she was told through Diddy's rep she was canned because she was pregnant and unmarried, which purposely set a bad example for his daughters. She's seeking unspecified damages. Now, see, that's hearsay. When you say that she was told this through his reps, that's actually hearsay because that's third-party information. And see, she went along with third-party information and filed a lawsuit based on third-party information. So they'll have to see what happens, you know. And so Kim was, you know, so, you know, she had passed away, was found deceased in her home 2018. And it later was revealed that she died of a form of pneumonia. So all I'm saying is that has to be determined in a court of law, you know, with this whole situation. And then just with that bishop that was robbed, just so you know, he came out and they did, arrest. They found the robbers and they arrested them. And, you know, when people start coming up into churches and in the middle of services and robbing people, whether they're bishops or just congregants, but when people start doing that, you know that the world is headed for perdition. There are people in this world that are headed for perdition, and the wrath of God shall be up on folks. You know, when people start going up in churches and robbing people in churches and in the middle of services and putting everybody at risk, this is despicable. It is just horrendous that we are horrific that we are seeing stuff like this happen in the church. And that's why some churches lock their doors when the services start, and you have security or you have the deacons at the door in the foyer letting people in that can be legit. There's a lot going on in this world. And when people start just walking up into a church and robbing a church, robbing the bishop and robbing preachers and pastors or even congregants and putting guns to folks' head, something has got to be done about this, because you could be just sitting in church. The doors of the church are supposed to always be open in God's name, right? That's God's house, you know, and it's sad that it has come to the place of where people are afraid to even attend church. A lot of people have stopped attending church because of this madness. And people say, yeah, because it's false prophets. I understand it. I got that. But what about your safety now? Now you're going to have to worry about your safety sitting in a church and somebody can just coming through the doors, because the doors of the church are supposed to be always open in God's name. And so therefore they come up in and everybody got to open up their purses and give their wallets and all of this and jewelry, if they got on fine jewelry. There's people that worked hard for their money. There are people that have worked hard and bought them nice things, and it's being taken. Just like with PNB, the rapper that was killed over his stuff, because his girlfriend, baby's mother, posted a picture of their location. Next thing you know, this family showed up and killed this man. It's sad. And they finally arrested him, as I was saying. So this has really gotten to be out of control. And that people had so much to say about this black man, that he was a crook, he was a crime. I mean, a crook and a criminal, and that his congregants was suffering in this old building, and that, he was stealing their money. I'm just saying, this was a lot of the stuff that came out about this man. And this man says he earned his money in real estate. He said he has a job. And there are people out here that have jobs. They are pastors, there's ministers, and they have jobs. Bishops, some of them have to go to work and take care of their family. And their money is their money. And how they spend it is their business. Now, we know the Bible says that you shouldn't be flashy. And I'm just paraphrasing it. You can go to the scripture, and all of that. But that's still that man's money that he said he earned. It's not the congregation money. He said he earned money in real estate. He has businesses. He's doing whatever he's doing. And he says he gives back to the community. I saw the interview on that. I didn't, his press conference that he held. And he wants, he wanted them to apologize. And he said he wasn't doing anything else that they called him and asked him to do until he gets an apology from the commissioner. He was talking about it in his press conference. If you've seen that, I didn't cover it. I didn't do a video on it, but I'm come because I wanted to wait, and bring back and see what happened with what happened. And so it was two men from Brooklyn, Jawan Anderson and Saquon Polak, were charged with armed robbery for their roles in the July 24th incident, according to Breon Peace, U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, on Tuesday. Peace statement reads, as alleged, the defendants brought guns into a place of worship, stealing from two members of the clergy and terrifying the congregation in the process. This is just despicable. It is shameful. And now we're targeting even more places of worship. First, it was you couldn't preach, what the Bible says against homosexuality, and they wanted to arrest pastors for doing that. Now you have people going up into the congregation, terrifying the congregation and stealing and robbing from bishops and from clergies, members of the clergy team. This is sad. And then you had the woman just not long ago went up there and interrupt his service, filming and recording all up in the church. And he has a right to say, don't record in the church. My last church, before God moved me on, there was a member there doing that. And she was told to stop. Do not record the service. If they don't want you recording, don't, because most churches have their own setup that they can record if they choose to record the service, and so I'm just saying that this is out of control. And so would you be afraid to go to church now, knowing that people can come barging up in the church? Because again, the doors of the church are open in God's name. They're supposed to always be open, and so if you have churches locked now, it's going to be hard for folks to get in that come off the street, that want to give their life to Christ, that want to see what this is all about. Does their what they're preaching and processes align with the word of God and the standards of Christ? People are want to know, so they don't just some people don't just go one time and turn their life over. They go many times. So if the doors are locked, how can you go in for reconciliation? How can you go in for prayer? How can you go in and receive what thus saith the Lord? How can you go in and try to get a word, when you're hurting, or you looking for a new church home if the doors are going to be locked? Because a lot of churches might start saying, you know what? And then there are some that say, I'm not locking no doors. We just going to have to get security, or we just going to have to trust God. But there are people that will get security. There are churches that have security. I believe them big churches have security. They might not be talking about it, but they probably do. They have security. Some of these big old churches. But how could you commit such an act during a religious service? It's incomprehensible. And it is, man. It's crazy. And so there's a third suspect that's still at large, according to Peace. And so the incident was caught on camera during the service's live stream. And people talked about him and said, well, it was a setup for insurance money or whatever, because he laid down too easily. Well, would you lay down? If a gun was at your head or in your wife's face, and he had his baby, I believe was 8 months of age, would you fight them or would you lay down and let them have it? See, our life is more valuable than jewels. And so the people that were talking about this saying, well, he just laid down too easily. Well, what did you expect? Did you expect him to fight these people with guns? He didn't have a gun. So what did you expect? I mean, like, come on, people, get a clue. You're up here talking about he laid down too easy. Well, here, you can have everything. See this little bracelet? Here, you can have it. You know what I'm saying? You can have this. Have whatever. You need my sweat jacket? Have it. I would have gave it up too. Yes, I would have gave it up. A gun in your wife's face, your baby, 8 months of age. What you gonna do? You know, a life is more valuable than rubies and gold. Come on, we remember the word of God. Come on now. And there was people out there talking about how he laid down so easily. Well, should he have fought the people and took it and lost his life, and then his wife would be a widow and his baby would not have a father because he laid down his life and said, you can have it. Whatever you want, you can have it for the sake of me and my family and my congregation. You can have it. Because see, God can replace it tenfold. If that's what he chooses to do to restore you, he can give it back. He can restore your goods. But right now, we need our life to be preserved. The life of a person and his congregation and his wife and baby and all the other, the congregation and their families. I wouldn't have fought them people. I would have said, here, take it. Take it. And the pawn shops, they put notices out anyway. When you file a police report, all the pawn shops usually are supposed to get notified that if they come in and try to pawn it, they need to notify the authorities because they have an obligation also. You know? And so they started taking items off him. He got down on that ground. And so he says that today is the start of healing. We will let the justice system continue to work as I continue to do what God has called me to do. See, but some people said that he attributed the crime to him flaunting fancy cars and bling online. But he goes on to say he hopes these pointing fingers at him understand that I, along with my family and church, are the victims and not the villains. That's what he's saying. So sometimes people just have to not be so quick to judge. Not be so quick to judge. Not be so quick to judge. So with that being said, you all, thank you so much for tuning in. If you missed the live, please, follow it, come and watch it later. I know it's a little over an hour, so you can probably break it up in parts. Don't forget to like the video, thumbs it up, and then share the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber. Thank you so much again for all my new subscribers. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a beautiful day in the Lord. It's Friday. It's the beginning of a weekend for some people. The payday weekend, the first is coming. So, you all can celebrate, spend your money wisely, have a good time, enjoy your family, love on each other, but be safe out here in the streets, man. And when you're in your home, be alert and lock your doors and don't leave packages out on your porch for folks to steal packages off your porch. And be careful because you know what? There's a lot of scamming things going on with your emails. People are sending emails left and right telling you got packages, which really that's just fraudulent. If you ordered something or not. And if you don't remember, go check and see, if you order something, because I see a lot of emails where people are being scammed or they're sending these fraudulent emails saying you have a package and we've been trying to deliver, you won a prize and want you to click on something. Don't click on those emails. Do not click on unfamiliar emails. Don't accept packages that you didn't order. And even phone calls. With the recent fire that was out in Fairview, Hemet, California, Here they go again, these scammers trying to act like they are from the California Fire Department, and here they are calling. I mean, I received so many calls because I have caller ID on my landline, and I have a landline. Some people don't anymore, but I do. I'm old-fashioned when it comes to landlines, because I say if my cell phone don't work for some reason, because I've had chargers that were broken and I didn't know it, and they didn't charge my phone. And sometimes your phone can go, go bad, and so or sometimes, your service can go bad and have problems where, and so you're supposed to be able to call 911. But anyway, you might not get calls. So they weren't calling my cell phone, they were calling my home phone number. Cal Fire, they were acting like they was Cal Fire. Cal Fire would never be calling people soliciting. They don't solicit like that. If they solicit, they have a legitimate fundraiser, and a lot of times you will see them on the corners in the intersection asking for money, and they're from the local police. The local fire department, which I've met them and I've seen them. So all I'm saying is that be careful when people are calling your home, and even your elderly loved ones. Talk to them about identity theft and not answering the phone, and if they do answer the phone, don't agree to anything. Don't do it, because people are getting scammed left and right, and they do target the elderly population. And they were trying to get money. They were soliciting, and then there's another thing that came out, was a lawsuit. It's an advertisement. Not a lawsuit, but an advertisement for a lawsuit. And what they were saying is that your home could be in a contaminated area, and we can get money. So basically what they want you to do is sue your insurance company of your homeowner's insurance, and then they can turn around your homeowners and raise your rates. No, don't participate in fraudulent lawsuits, frivolous lawsuits. Don't do it. Just read and be careful what you do out here. We always should have some takeaways. Even though we talk about these news stories and things that are happening around the world, some people don't get to the news. Some people don't watch it anymore, but anyway, so there always should be some type of, takeaways, and how can we do better to protect ourselves, when it comes down to what's going on in society. How can we protect ourselves? And so it's very important. So like I said, while you're out here, you're at work or whatever you're doing, be safe, be kind to one another, and if you got to walk away from foolishness, walk away from nonsense, walk away from things that will try to steal your joy, and walk away from things that do not, that you don't want your energy drained over foolishness. If your energy has to be drained, let it be because you are happy doing something. You went to the park with your grandchildren or your children or your family. You played volleyball, you played soccer, football, whatever it is, baseball, paddleball, back and forth, whatever it is, have fun doing it. If you have a swimming pool and it's still warm where you live at, go swimming. But just if it's going to be anything. And tetherball, remember tetherball, if it's going to be anything you do it for the glory of God. Have fun doing it, but don't waste your energy getting drained over frivolous foolishness, Karen moments, unless you have to protect yourself. Karen moments, Kevin moments, or whatever they call the guy, the male Karen. But I'm just saying, don't waste your time. Walk away, ignore those folks, and live your life. And take care of you and be healthy, because getting upset on a lot can put a strain on your heart, and you don't want to raise your blood pressure or cholesterol or sugar levels dealing with people that are living in fear and are unhappy. Because a lot of these people that's doing a lot of stuff, they living in fear, because people are saying it's the last days, and people are living in fear. And when they don't know something, they live in fear. When they don't know you, they fear you. We know the story. So just be careful out here, people. God bless you all. Love everyone. Peace out.